For this presentation, I'm going to be discussing the similarities, differences, and overall comparings of island reggae and hip-hop. First of all, establishing the genre and background. Island reggae, or as some people call it, Hawaiian, is a mix of Hawaiian-Jamaican music styles. It's a blend of Jamaican rhythm and beats with a mix of Hawaiian instrumentals, voices, and visuals like ukulele and riffs on the guitar. How did reggae get to Hawaii? Establishing that there is a long history of well-known Jamaican artists who did make their way down to Hawaii, being supported by the local community in Hawaii. The original story is in the early 60s, a new subgenre of music started to rise called reggae that resisted colonialism and slavery, serving as a sound representing community pride and pride in one's culture. When this genre crossed the oceans to Hawaii, the messages of freedom, struggle, and identity resonated with the islanders as they felt very similar feelings and cultural pride. In the 80s and 90s, locals started to make their genre their own, using things like slack key and ukulele, implementing their own experiences and stories and making it their own, essentially creating a new genre of reggae called Hawaiian. Why did I choose island reggae? I chose island reggae because it resonated with me deeply, considering that I am from Hawaii. When I saw that island reggae was a topic that I could choose, I was extremely happy that I could connect my culture with another music genre that I really like, especially since this is the music that I grew up with, especially at family barbecues, beach days, and parties. Every time I listen to this type of music, it gives me a wave of nostalgia, and it brings me back to those family days being around my cousins. I do still listen to this music often because, again, it brings me a sense of nostalgia, and I really do miss my family. Plus, the music makes me extremely happy with its upbeat tunes most of the time, without the sad songs. What is rapping? Rapping is an art form that can musically express themselves. What is rapping and emceeing? Rapping is an art form that people can musically express themselves with, that consists of rhythms, flows, and poetic lyrics over a hip-hop type beat/flow. This kind of art expresses a plethora of things depending on the person and their experiences. However, it was originally to express their struggles as marginalized groups and speak upon the trials and tribulations that they face living as a minority in a poverty-ridden area, aka the Bronx. The origins of this genre derive from African and Afro-Caribbean oral traditions, which evolved through many years into different genres like blues, jazz, and poetry. The genre originally emerged in the 70s, down in New York City, where early DJs like DJ Kool Herc would use turntables as instruments and loop breakbeats as a popular way to get the crowd dancing and having fun. This led to people speaking over these beats, like poetry, evolving into rhythm type expressions, which is called rapping. Rapping specifically in the islands. Hip-hop, rapping, and African-American influence made its way down to Hawaii in the 80s and 90s. Like reggae, locals connected with their music and messages and started to add their own cultural elements. With the elements of reggae in the 70s and a newfound influence from the mainland in the 80s and 90s, locals started incorporating rap, rhythms, flows, and beats into the music with their own cultural twist. The rap music consisted of reggae elements, heavy 80s pop influence, and mainland hip-hop that flows into the mix. Locals often incorporated their culture by speaking in their native language, speaking upon their own history and cultural traditions, making it an unmistakable sound from Hawaii. Like rap on the mainland, locals use it to express themselves through art and spread their culture through music. An example of a rap artist in Hawaii that rose to fame was Brother Noland. His most popular song being Coconut Girl, in which he talks about a girl leaving her boyfriend to go be a model in the Hollywood spotlight, touching on islanders who leave the island life to pursue other interests in the mainland. Rapping in the islands is less hardcore than rapping in the mainland. The trend of rapping in Hawaii is calmer, over reggae beats, and calmer tunes like Fia. DJing and turntablism. What is DJing? DJing is a big part of hip-hop and the process of mixing pre-recorded music with physical records or discs, creating a completely new kind of music with the materials that you have and that are available in stores around you. The process of DJing and the creation of hip-hop originated from DJ Kool Herc, who mixed records like disco and R&B to create a new kind of music. introducing techniques like scratching and beat matching. These techniques turned pre-recorded music into interactive art forms that people can create and use themselves. The main difference between traditional DJing, like DJ Kool Herc, and Hawaiian DJing is the fact that Hawaiians added their own twang to the art, like rapping, while also continuing to use international influence in their art form. Locals don't want to lose their culture and usually take influence with the music that they grew up with, like mainland DJing. So Hawaiian artists usually use the music that have cultural sentimental value to them. DJing is a key element in the popularization of Hawaiian. It mixes the genres of reggae and Hawaiian elements while also incorporating one of the main hip-hop elements. DJing is a technical tool that makes it significantly easier for artists to mix and incorporate their own cultural or non-cultural twists to music. DJing in Hawaii is essentially the same thing as DJing in the mainland, just adding more reggae elements, like Hawaiian. Now, graffiti. The history of graffiti and art, graffiti was an expression of oneself, like rapping. Graffiti in New York started to emerge in the 60s. However, the art started to revolutionize in the 70s with the rise of hip-hop, also known as an entirely new generation of artists to hit the streets. The 80s is when hip-hop really gained its ground with the public, and with that, so did graffiti, with graffiti being the more popular backdrop in music videos and overall community gatherings. Graffiti was seen as a cultural movement and, like I said before, an exploration of one's identity and self-expression. The art form allows people to express themselves, their thoughts, and emotions in a public setting. The art form also highlights other issues as well, such as social inequality, political uninterest, and cultural diversity, reflecting community issues and speaking upon them through art. Again, like rap. Graffiti and art in the islands is essentially the same thing as graffiti and art in New York and the mainland. However, we have things called mele murals, where they are essentially legalized graffiti. These people and artists are paid to paint these beautiful murals of certain depictures from Hawaiian culture around the state. My mother used to be one of those people. Like original graffiti in the islands, we use it as a self-expression and a highlight on certain issues within the state. I see it as more of a cultural expression, where in Hawaii, you spread one's culture through art. Dancing through the genre. While there is no specific dance for island reggae in Hawaii, I will be talking about things adjacent like breakdancing in Hawaii and reggae dances from Jamaica. Breakdancing became popular in the islands, unsurprisingly because of the rise of hip-hop in the 80s, which was mostly mainland-based. Popular groups who adapted the style were people like the Waikiki Boys and the 1984 TV show called Breakin' It Hawaii. Hip-hop dancing and breakdancing was a way for locals to accept and embrace mainland pop culture and help them express themselves physically and emotionally. A lot of breakdancing in Hawaii usually associated with both hip-hop and slight themes of reggae elements, essentially using both genres as a creative outlet of dance. What I mean by that is the songs that they used. Breakdancing in Hawaii is essentially just breakdancing in the mainland. The only difference is that they sometimes use Hawaiian. The second thing I will be talking about is Jamaican reggae and their dances. Jamaican reggae associates dances like skanking and whining in their reggae genre. Like everything, these dances were a form of cultural expression, turning music into physical movements that tell a story. These dances celebrated and tell stories of empowerment and resistance. Dancing is an outlet for the community. Most of the time, any kind of dancing is a nonverbal portrayal and expression of one's or the community's emotions and experiences, telling a story through their eyes. Dancing can also just be a fun way to express yourself and get with the entire vibe of the situation. Dancing is fun even if you're not good at it. More on rapping and hip-hop in island reggae. Island reggae differs from hip-hop and rapping due to the lyricism and topics that they speak upon. Hip-hop in today's age, starting in the early 90s, speak on the dehumanization and over-sexualization of women, getting money, and doing heavy drugs, portraying the stigma of men trying to act tough and doing it in a way that negatively impacts other people. A quote that I got from That's the Joint is, "People are outraged, man. You get to the point where you're constantly hearing over and over talk about mugging people, killing women, beating women, sexual behavior, When young people see this, 14, 15, 16 years of age, they think it's acceptable behavior. And I agree with this. People, especially children, are very susceptible to early messages in music. It talks about later portrayals of hip-hop and rap, like by artists like 50 Cent, that completely lose the point of OG hip-hop from the 70s, where they promote and market toxic masculinity towards young, impressionable men. However, island reggae strays from this. In island reggae, while people do talk about money and pakolodo, aka drugs, they speak about women respectfully and don't dehumanize them. Even when local men do speak about making love to women, they don't do it in a way that dehumanizes them. In Fiji song Jordyn, he says, it breaks my heart to see my island kings do nothing but use and abuse them, thinking they can take that beauty away. They can never. I know I came from a woman that looks just like her, so I can never live with myself. This is an example of portraying women in a positive light and calling out men who do those kind of things to women. A lot of island reggae songs follow this pattern of not understanding how men can hurt women physically or mentally. They don't call women bitches or hoes or portray them in a negative light. The music talks about how beautiful they are and the yearning aspect of romance and sex. This is purely from experience. I want to say 90% of the Hawaiian reggae songs that I listen to that are about the island and that are about women and love, it is so respectful. And that is one thing that Hawaiian reggae does not take from hip-hop, especially in the 90s. My thoughts. The reason I took this class was because of how much I love music, hip-hop, and history. But to explore my own cultures and the form of reggae that I listen to and hip-hop made me extremely excited to do this project. It really proves to me and a bunch of other people how influential and important music is to each and every person. I involved a quote that talk about examining the different elements of hip-hop, its evolution, and the soul that it contains. It's fascinating, and this quote puts it into perfect words on how incredible music, especially music derived from those cultures, and how it evolves with others really is. This class really makes me appreciate all aspects of music and makes me realize how wide and outspread music really is and how much it really connects people. One thing I specifically find interesting is how important sampling and DJing is. Each genre has aspects of many different kinds of pre-recorded music, like the combination of Jamaican reggae, Hawaiian music, and hip-hop that creates island reggae. The cultural changes that people make to their sounds is so fascinating, adding their own twists to certain genres to make a new one, especially using those genres to express different issues, interests, and messages that closely relate to your own situation and culture. Using those genres to express different issues, interests, and messages that closely relate to your own situation and culture is super cool. I, myself, use island reggae to express my love for my culture and my family. I do not live in Hawaii, so I cannot connect to its messages as much, but it still hits just as hard because that is where I'm from and where my family is from. Overall, I think it is very insightful and interesting how much culture influences music and how people derive from different genres of pre-recorded music. Lastly, I also think it's very interesting what music means to a person, whether it be super fun and a cool hobby to do, or putting your heart and soul into something to put out a message and to let people know about certain things. While I did not elaborate on this in the other slides, the reason that people from Hawaii can relate to this kind of music so often is because of also the high crime rates and high poverty rates in the areas, especially the overpopularization and tourism in Hawaii, which funds the state. While Hawaii is sometimes so different from the mainland, they're still a part of the mainland. And so people from Hawaii can heavily relate to the topics and things that hip-hop and rap music portray, like poverty and crime rates and government unsucceedings. As you can see, hip-hop and island reggae have many things in common due to the heavy influences of hip-hop in island reggae, like its heavy flows, beats, and the overall messages that they put out, especially when it comes to individualized message and speaking your truth.